Cecelia Meca, James Blatch. Welcome back to the show.
Patrick O'Donnell, how are you?
I'm great. See, I'll just put it out there right away. We're probably going to be giggling and laughing a lot because I love talking to
Because
you
we're
guys.
drunk.
Yeah.
You weren't supposed to tell anybody.
What time is it in PA?
12:21.
12:12. That's 2 hours after you start normally, isn't it?
It's 5 o'clock somewhere, James. That's the way I look at
5 o'clock
it.
somewhere.
That's right. So 3 time zones, one ocean cannot keep us apart.
Oh, that was good.
You like that? From talking about social media for authors.
Tagline on a romance novel.
Yes.
2 time zones, one ocean. Nothing could keep them apart.
Let me write that down.
With one broadsword and kilts and whatever else Cecilia's going to use.
Well, I won't say anything to that.
Oh, man. So let's start out, if nobody's ever heard of you guys, which I cannot see, but ladies first. Cecelia, why don't you introduce yourself?
Sure. My name is Cecelia Meca. I write historical medieval romance as my name, and also steamy small town contemporary as Bella Michaels. Former English teacher and have been writing full time since 2017. Hard to imagine now. Yeah, living the dream here in Northeast Pennsylvania with my 2 teens. That about sums it up, I think.
Okay. James.
It's nice to hear Cecelia saying something positive about Pennsylvania.
Yeah.
I don't do it.
We can get into this down as she has on.
I'm sorry.
But that's you have itchy feet. And I'm James Blatch. I write Cold War historical thrillers with a bit of aviation bent to them. And I am part of Self-Publishing Formula, which provides online courses for self-publishing authors.
And don't forget the self-publishing show.
And a co-host of the self-publishing show. A leading podcast. Our next episode we're recording on Thursday, tomorrow, is our 400th.
Holy catfish.
Wow, yeah. Congrats. That's really cool.
400 relentless weeks of recording.
Are you doing anything cool or special?
Wow.
Yeah, we're not going to have an interviewee. We're going to chew the breeze, and we're going to change the format a little bit of the show for the next while. We are going to do fewer interviews and more chat about the industry and news and what we're doing and stuff like that, because we think actually quite a lot of people listen to the show. And the way we do the show is you come on straight on with your guests, and that's the discussion, and that works really well. We do our bit where we chat, then we have the interview, then we chat at the end, and we found out quite a lot of people don't listen to the interview, which is not really fair on the interviewee, but I sort of understand the way we present it. They want to hear us talking. So, I mean, I hope none of my interviewees are listening. You two have both been on it. But, that's not everyone, but it is part of it. So we think, okay, well, let's build on the bit people like, which is us talking about the industry. And we'll do an interview probably once a month, something like that.
See, I think that's a great idea.
I like the banter between the two of you, but I also like the interviews. James, I'm not saying this to kiss your butt, but you're probably one of the best interviewers that I've heard or seen. Yeah, I've been interviewed a bunch of times, and I know you have too, Cecelia. And by far, you're probably one of the very best. You have the chops for it.
Thank you very much. It's very kind.
That's true.
I had a chat with someone I used to work with when I was in the BBC. We had a call this afternoon. Actually, he's a fighter pilot who now does TV news commentary. And we're getting together again to do TikTok stuff, which we can talk about in a moment. But I was telling him that my interview skills have risen exponentially since doing the podcast. After 15 years at the BBC, they were okay, but they've got so much better doing the podcast. And if you listen to my early ones, they're not great. And then developing this conversational technique, and I think I've told you this before, Patrick, I can sum it up by listening to the answers, which is a really basic thing to say, but it's so common for interviewers not to really listen to what the person's saying. That's the key to it. So I've got better just doing the podcast, not doing anything else, not my BBC background, I don't think.
Well, I think it helped, that's for sure. But like I said, was 400 freaking episodes. Yeah, that's nothing to sneeze at.
Interviews.
Yeah,
a lot.
That's a whole bunch. All right. So, I asked you how, what you're doing in publishing, etc. How long have you guys been in your careers with publishing? And what stage do you think you're at?
How long have we been in our careers, did you say?
Yeah, for publishing.
Cecelia Meca, you go first.
So I published my first medieval romance in February of 2017. So, and I was still working as a teacher at the time. I published my second in June of that year. And then after listening to the self-publishing show, I went back and wrote that's true, actually. I went back and wrote a prequel novella, published that in July, started kind of gaining momentum. And by September, I was done. I handed in my resignation before the school year began. So that was 20 years in education, and yeah, since 2017 publishing. It's the dream career, it really is. I mean, I pinch myself still every day for the opportunity to travel and, take my work with me. There's still goals that I haven't met that I'm still working toward, and splitting my time between two pen names has been a challenge, but yeah, it's been pretty awesome.
I think for people who don't know you, you're probably one of the biggest success stories, I think, in indie publishing. Because I mean, you have your doctorate, you were, on your way to becoming a professor, at college, and all of a sudden it's like, you slammed on the brakes, and you, as the cool kids would say, you pivoted.
Yeah, I did. I had just finished paying off my PhD and realized very quickly, like, I wouldn't be using it ever. So I think I got maybe a few months of like salary benefits from it. But yeah, I had always planned to move into college. And that's something I guess I could still do, but I really don't have a ton of interest in going back and delving into English literature after being in genre fiction for a few years. I see kind of the discussion sometimes, this is a off topic, but when we talk about trad and more serious writing, and do I want to someday write women's fiction where it's, not necessarily guys in kilts, but then I remind myself, I had 20 years of that academic,
Sure.
I really do love genre fiction. I think there's a place for it. Makes people happy, makes my readers happy, and it makes me happy. So I'm thrilled to be where I am. But yeah, it was a bit of a pivot to go from, just finishing a dissertation and saying, okay, I'm not going to use this ever, but that's okay.
Right. I can't believe you were going to be a professor.
Right?
I mean, I've played Jeopardy with you. Professor.
I wasn't going to be a professor of mindless numb trivia, James.
Well, what other sort of professorship is there? Like the best one.
I am actually very, very bad at trivia. Yeah. I always thought that would be like the end of my career, that, I do public education. Like I said, I did it for 20 years. I was a curriculum specialist. I really enjoyed that. The last few years of my career, I, spoke to groups, and that's why kind of coming back to speaking in 20 books with James. I love that stuff because I did it for a few years. But yeah, I was going to be a professor. Imagine that.
Yeah. I'm just trying to give some context because, you're what many would say very successful with your indie publishing career.
Thank you. I'm making a full-time career of it. I'm happy to do that. But, in the last few years, there's been, with TikTok especially, kind of going back to our topic, there's been a level of success that's just, sky high. And so to me, I look at that as inspiration. There's a lot of room to move and grow in this industry. So yeah, I still have goals to hit.
James?
Yes. Well, I published my first book in 21. I've done a book a year, 21, 22, 23. I was hoping to have a second one out in 23, but that stalled a little bit, although I've got going again on that now, so it might be 24. So I'm not a fast writer, and it is, to be honest, it's almost a back boiler project for me, because producing and running SPF, producing the show, running SPF, running Fuse Books with imprint publisher, and other things take up most of my time. But I do. It's the best thing I do, actually, is the writing and publishing. I love it, and I do sort of my retirement is doing that full time. Right. If I can get to that point.
You know what? For the both of you, I just see both of you with your fingers on the pulse.
Cecelia definitely has her finger on the pulse. She knows stuff first in this industry. She's brilliant at seeing trends. And I mock you, of course, Cecelia, and I always will. But I'm a huge Meca fan.
Thank you, James.
And she is an oracle of all knowledge.
The oracle of all knowledge. Then wow.
That's high compliment indeed from the same guy who interviewed 400 authors. So I'll take it.
Yeah, no kidding. So what sparked my interest for this episode was seeing that the lineup for 20 Books Vegas in November, there was going to be a class about TikTok, and you guys were going to be teaching it. So last year I went to yours, James, because Cecelia was not there, and I really enjoyed it. That was a very fast 50 minutes. I know, I do a panel, and I got to say that 50 minutes flies by like in a blink of an eye, especially when you have people asking questions, etc. You only have like maybe 30 minutes, 20 minutes to talk and give your presentation. Then the rest is, Q&A, especially for something like this, because I know it was popular last year, probably be even more popular this year, especially with Cecelia there too. Nothing against you, James.
Of course. For sure.
So
James
now,
is going to be taking the lead on this, to be honest. I mean, he's the TikTok guy. I can talk to you later about kind of what I do with it, but TikTok is a tough nut to crack.
Hang on, I intend to sit at the back and listen to you present.
Oh, great.
I'll take questions at the end.
We are in trouble.
I signed up for this. Now I really want to see this. I'm bringing drinks. That's all there's to it.
You should. You were going to encourage that, so nobody knows what's going on.
We will. We haven't really planned exactly what we're going to say. I mean, I've been keeping my ear to the ground, as it may. This is like a proper preview. This is more of a planning session than a preview, isn't it?
Yes, it is. It is.
So James and Cecelia, why do it? Why do this presentation?
That's a great question.
Because you were told to.
Yeah.
I mean, I wouldn't go so far as to say that, but kind of. No, I mean, we wanted to do a session. We were looking at various topics, and James does have a lot of TikTok knowledge. And the spin kind of we're taking on this too is honestly for people like me who haven't hit viral success on TikTok, that it could still be worth it. And then there's ways to repurpose TikTok videos. There's ways to kind of still make it a part of your strategy, even if that elusive, like viral, you're now number one on Amazon.
Right.
So sometimes that can be hard to hit.
So before we dig into the TikTok weeds, James or Cecelia, can you kind of give us an overview of TikTok for those who kind of stray away from it or really don't know that much about it? For us, it's second nature, but when you talk to other people, they look at you like, it's, a bunch of high school kids like dancing around and lip syncing to a song or something like that.
Yeah.
That's kind of how it started.
And that was really the gist of what I did last year, was to introduce people to the channel, open their eyes to the possibility for authors. And I think if you're listening to this and you're on TikTok as an author in Book Talk, that's brilliant. But as you say, there's so many people who glaze over at the idea of it. And the dancing girls thing, I mean, TikTok started as a music app in China, as people know.
Right.
And music is its origins. So sound and music are really important in TikTok. And the vast majority of people who go onto TikTok are not authors or even readers interested in Book Talk. They are people who will just start to see stuff they're interested in. And those skipping, dancing videos of Hayley Kawesho and whatever, all that stuff does really well. It's really fun, uplifting to watch. And so when you go on initially, that's the stuff they're going to throw at you. But here's the thing. There's behind that little window into that bit is this massive world of everything you can possibly imagine. Now, if you are a law enforcement person, okay, so you either work in law enforcement like you did, Patrick, or you're retired or whatever, there is law enforcement TikTok, and it's huge and it covers the world, and some of it's incredibly interesting and some of it's interesting in other ways. And if you're into military aircraft like I am, there's a massive world of military aircraft on there. Honestly, whoever you are, whatever your demographic and background, you will find your tribe on TikTok simply because of the sheer size of it. And so you need to spend your first few weeks, if you're going on to Book Talk, is training, what we talk about, training the algorithm, basically seeking out those things you're interested in and letting TikTok know who you are, what your interests are, which is going to stand you in really good stead for when you start posting. It's going to send your posts out to the right people. So yeah, there's so much more to TikTok than the dancing girls, but they are there, obviously. I haven't done any dancing.
I'm waiting for you to dance. I'm waiting.
Keep on waiting. I don't know if we need to see that, but okay. Again, more alcohol. We need more booze. What makes TikTok stand out more than other social media, such as Facebook or Instagram? Those are like the two that stick out in my head, when it comes to authors and, this type of thing.
The algorithm, I'd say it's really, really good. It's actually 100 times better than the other algorithms out there. It works really fast. The organic reach of TikTok is unparalleled. You can put a post out on Facebook and it's going to go to a handful of people at best. Even if you've got 20,000 followers, it still doesn't go to all your followers. The same on Instagram and on Twitter. On TikTok, a post, I can post and 10,000 people will see it. 5,000 people will like it, and sometimes 1 million. I've had over 1 million people seeing some of my posts. There's no other platform like that. It's just the way TikTok works, and it can do that because people don't spend very long on there. The posts tend to be shorter. They consume far more posts on TikTok in, let's say, a 20-minute session online than they do even on Instagram, which is fairly quick. And so your reach ability in TikTok is unparalleled, and that's where the power is coming in. That's where the value's coming in for authors trying to find readers.
What I found interesting was, I think at your talk last year at 20 Books, you're talking about, you did a TikTok video. You were at London Heathrow, and you just did a quick, like 30-second TikTok or whatever. And how many views did you get on that? Was that the million one?
That wasn't the million one. I can remember how many it was at the time, and I'll have a look in a second, see how many it is now. But yeah, so that was I got a security. So when you fly from the UK to the States, they randomly choose people on every flight to do enhanced security checks, and it's just one of the layers of security. It's like a randomized thing,
right?
And the first time I got it, I thought was, your name's called, your passport's taken away from you, you're asked to go downstairs, you go to this special area, and you wonder what the hell's going on. They do all these sniff tests on your luggage and stuff.
Hopefully it's a dog.
Yeah, it's not a dog. No, it's a machine. Unfortunately, it's electronic sniffing.
Oh, okay.
AI sniffing. But that'd
be a bad job. I wouldn't want that job.
That there are two giveaways that this is coming. One is you won't be able to get your boarding pass on your mobile app. And secondly, when you do get a paper boarding pass at the airport, it'll have SSSS on it. And I thought this was interesting enough. And that happened to me. And it happened to me earlier in the year with the family. I could see it. I've got this SSSS. I know what's going to happen. I'm going to get pulled and it did. And then I got it again on my way out to Vegas. And so I was sitting there, I was very tired, like 6 o'clock in the morning. We're in the lounge, probably hungover. And I filmed and just explained what I've just explained to you is what I filmed. And that was it. And I thought, just get a TikTok out there. Content is everything. And on TikTok, it doesn't have to be that polished. Sincerity works much better than polish. And I compared it, actually it was out on the way to Nink, and I compared it with a TikTok I did in Nink, where we went flying with our mutual friend Nathan Van Coops.
Oh, yeah, you bet.
I did a bit of production value on that, my BBC skills.
I remember seeing that, yes.
It was a really fun video. That got 500 views, and me explaining about the enhanced security check at that point had 212,000 views on it.
That makes no sense.
It makes no sense. Well, it sort of does, because like I say, TikTok rewards sincerity. So if you try and present yourself in a certain light with a little bit of acting and a bit of production, that is not going to fly as much as you without makeup on. I mean, I always have without makeup on, in the morning saying, so this is what it's really like being an author. This is what I'm going to do.
We're not judging.
No
judging.
That works really well on TikTok. And it's, but again, on Instagram and Twitter, it's very, very, I've never had a tweet go viral. I see it happening to people, but no one I know. So it's a rare thing on Twitter, X, as we call it now. But on TikTok, it's much more common, and even people who only get 200 to 300 views most of the time, occasionally will get 10,000 when a post goes.
So Cecelia, which has been your most popular that you can think of? TikTok reel?
Not on my main accounts. So I have 2 accounts. Cecelia, I don't use that much anymore. Sometimes if I just want to do a random fun TikTok because there's a trend I can't help not doing. I really should kind of have that as a medieval slant, but it's so it's my oldest account, and it's kind of a bit of a mess now. So I don't use it all that much. My Bella Michaels account, I do the same kind of videos all the time. Mostly only get a few hundred views on those, but those I do repurpose, and they work for that. The most views I've gotten have been accounts that are dedicated. I have one for just military heroes, because my current series has military, like returning ex-military heroes to a small town. So I have an account for that. I have an account for just contemporary romance, and my most views have been on those because they're very targeted, very niche. I don't follow anyone who's not, in book talk, or accept anybody who's not in book talk. What's been doing best lately have been the slideshows, and just, text on a photo where it's, pulled from the book, and the better the blurbs that you're putting out there, the catchier they are, the better they do. But by far, the ones that I've had in the tens of thousands have been on those accounts.
Wow.
So, and I don't think that's an accident, because of the way the algorithm has been working in the last, say, year or so.
Okay. So, I was going to ask, how can authors use it to focus on specific reader groups? And I think you've answered that partially. Can you guys think of anything else?
I mean, it is training the algorithms, not just a case of what you post, which it is on other social media networks, the hashtags you use and what you post. But I think TikTok takes a lot of notice of what you watch and who you interact with. So you've got someone said we had a little session in Cambridge, actually, a little group of Cambridge authors here, and we meet up every now and again. We had a session in Cambridge the other week, and people exchanged some tips. And someone said using TikTok normally as the person you want to target is a really key thing. So if you should use TikTok as a romance reader of contemporary romance, looking for spice or whatever it is, your particular area of reverse horror and whatever. If you act like that, then when you do your posting, that mean more than whatever hashtag you happen to put on the post. And that's why I think my account's done quite well, is because I'm genuinely always seeking out military aircraft stuff and military stuff. And so it knows who my audience is, works that way, which is probably its secret weapon, actually. I wonder if Facebook does the same thing. I think Facebook and the other algorithms, I think they look at what you like and they send you that stuff, and then when you send a post out, they look at who you've aimed it at and what keywords are in there. It decides who to send it out. What it doesn't do is mix those two over and work out, well, if that person is interested in this area, we're going to send this post out to people interested in the same area. That's what TikTok does.
Okay, now let's get specific. Music. First, what pops into my head is, from being a podcaster, and same thing with you, James, they're using all this music that's not licensed. They're using, Bon Jovi or Kiss or whoever, and they're not getting permission to use this. How do they get away with that?
Well, it's a bit of a saga that went on, but basically TikTok started off with people just uploading Taylor Swift or who are, licensed music and using it. And some point, so a lot of this happened behind closed doors. I think there's a bit of a passage about it on Wikipedia, but at some point the music industry went to TikTok and said, look, this is blatant copyright violation.
Absolutely.
But at the same time, the bean counters at Time Warner Music, etc., couldn't help but notice that this hit from 1971 is suddenly selling 25,000 copies every day. And they didn't know why. And then someone said, well, it's because it's gone viral on TikTok. And so the music industry realized that TikTok was going to be good for them, but at the same time, they weren't going to give it a free ride. So anyway, a deal was done in the background. Every year, the CEO of TikTok gets out his checkbook and he writes a check to the music industry of a huge amount of money. And there are certain rules to follow. And those rules are, I think you'll notice now, there's normally no more than 30 seconds of copyrighted music. There are derivations of copyrighted music, and I don't, sort of sped up chipmunky type voices. I don't know what they call it. And
Yep.
I don't really know how that works. Maybe that's the new frontier of testing copyright. But also, depending what type of account you've got. So if you've got a personal account, there's nothing stopping you pushing your books on it. And frankly, most authors who are taking part in Book Talk, pushing their books, do have a personal account. So they can use Taylor Swift and all that music's available to them. But strictly speaking, if you were really risk averse about this, Taylor Swift could come after you because she's not endorsing your book. And regardless of the fact that TikTok's made these stuff available, it does say in the terms and conditions you can't use it for commercial use. So that comes down to what is commercial for you. Saying I'm an artist and I've created this work of art. That's a Biggles book, but W. Bates created it. Is that commercial? Anyway, so that's a bit of a bogged down area. I think the risk is low, but it is there. So what you can do to get around that is you create a business account, which I've done because I use TikTok Shop here in the UK. The advantage of that is that you can use all the sounds that are available to you commercially to sell your books. What the disadvantage is that Taylor Swift won't be there anymore. But there is a wide variety. So I did a post today. I went to Paris a couple of days ago, visited their museum, put a post together, an overproduced post that won't do very well, I'll tell you, because it took me an hour to edit it and put the music on it. But the music is library music, but it works absolutely fine. It doesn't, if the sphere I'm in anyway. I think what we probably miss, I don't know if you have a business account, Cissy?
I have some business accounts, some personal accounts. I have both.
Okay. So yeah. I think what I miss is the trends, because a lot of the trends do involve copyrighted music, and I can't use them on my business account. But having multiple accounts is also something that's almost encouraged in TikTok. You can have multiple accounts. They make it really easy for you to do that within the app. So I could probably open a personal account and do that and push my books on that one as well.
Interesting. Now, how purposeful are you guys when it comes to picking music for a video? How do you do it?
Cissy?
Yeah, I actually use sometimes the suggested music, sometimes the viral music. There was a point where I was using apps to locate songs that were kind of on the rise to try to get them before they became viral, as they were kind of moving up. So I've tested all kinds of things, and I don't find that spending 20 minutes to find a song necessarily makes a video do any better than just picking the ones that TikTok gives me to recommend. So I don't spend as much time on that now. Usually they say if you're seeing the sound over and over and over again, it's probably kind of too late to use that sound in hit. But again, it depends on your goals. So if I'm on my Bella Michaels account, I'm not necessarily trying to go viral. Would I love to? Absolutely. But I'm posting on multiple accounts, and I don't want to spend the time to, take hours a day on TikTok. So for that account, I'm just using a sound. The goal there is to take that video, put it on Instagram, put it on Facebook stories, put it on Facebook Reels, put it on Pinterest, put it everywhere else.
Yeah.
So I don't care as much. You could, and I know people who devote, the majority of their marketing time on TikTok, multiple accounts, multiple videos, and you could spend a lot of time on here. So kind of have to pick and choose what you want to spend time doing.
Gotcha.
I think sound is important, and I think there is, if you can get on those early sound trends, that can, but it's got to be the right type of content. I do see people seeing a sound trend, putting it on their piece, then putting the volume all the way down. In fact, I think you told me this trick, Cissy, a year or so ago. Putting the volume all the way down because it's enough for the algorithm to think this is using a trending sound. TikTok loves trends, right? It loves trends. It has been born on a wave of these trends that suddenly you see absolutely everywhere, and then they die a death and the next one comes along. So the algorithm is strongly supportive of trends. So that's why people, if it's a trending sound, will stick it on. And my biggest video, my 1.2 million, actually had a trending sound on it. It's probably no coincidence.
What do you guys think about like narrating the video, or not having that music playing, or is that even possible?
Well, you can do both. You can have a bit of music and narration. I prefer. I don't know. I mean, the one I put together today, which I quite liked, I was going to narrate it and then decided to use captions and music. Probably makes it an easier watch. I still don't think it's going to do very well because it's probably too long as well, but and overproduced. But then I follow a guy. See, I think you're very charismatic on TikTok, Cissy. You've got the right look and you come across well. And I think that is worth a lot. And I follow a guy called Captain Bob, who's a cargo pilot, and he's just very naturally at ease on camera. and he never puts any music on his. He always talks directly to camera. He's in vision the whole time, telling you a little bit about the flight he's on, and he does really, really well. I mean, he's got a huge TikTok following. But I think it's horses for courses. What's going to work for you? That old thing about if that's what you're good at, do more of that. Sure. Don't know if it quite works for me. Having said that, my early days, I did a few story times to camera, and they did really well at the time. But I don't like looking at myself on camera, though.
I don't either.
You don't like looking at me on camera.
No.
That's the way I saw it, James. That's the way I saw it.
Is that because I'm not Irish or Scottish?
I can't believe she admitted that on camera. Yeah, you know exactly what I was talking about.
Yes.
I've had so many people tell me I should narrate more. Not so many people, like literally 2, but I have tried that.
Okay, I'll tell you 2. So there's 4.
You tell that. So there you go. And I've tried them. It doesn't, and it's funny because I said earlier I love to speak, and it's part of my background, but I don't love to do it on video. And I've tried it, and it feels like I'm shoehorning it, and I just never. Maybe I will them to not do good, but every time I narrate, the videos absolutely tank. I think the last one, it was like under 100 views, and my sister actually is really trying to crack the TikTok code for me. She's been on there just as a casual user, but she's been just testing a lot of things, and she's always on me to do more narration. So every time I do, I send it to her. I'm like, look, it doesn't work. Okay. That's because you do it once every 3 months. But I've tried it. I don't love to do it, but I should probably test it more, because that's all it is. It's about testing, like James said. I've done the exact formula that other authors have used to go viral. You can have, as good of a quote, you can use the same site, you can do everything, and it won't take off. And so you really have to figure out your own strategy, following other authors too.
I think I'm with your sister. You should give it a go. I think you could do stuff behind the scenes stuff. Yeah. It doesn't have to be storyline and stuff. A lot of your TikToks are, what would happen if this guy turned up in Main Street and whatever, but which are great.
I can tell you what happens.
Yeah. I hope so.
Spoiler alert. But I think what you can do is sitting at your top at home saying, okay, so this is my dilemma for today writing, and just talk openly about what you're thinking about, where the story's going to go. That's a really powerful way of getting readers loyal to you, is they start feeling that they're part of the process. And you're so good, I think, at talking about the process and writing. I think that's an area you could exploit, not aimed at other authors. I mean, aimed at readers.
Yeah, thanks, James. Actually, that's pretty much exactly. I hope she doesn't watch this video. My sister is trying to get me to do on my Cecelia account, because it's kind of me in the most natural, probably fit. So maybe I'll try it. Maybe I'll try it before Vegas so we can see what happens.
Yeah,
there we go. You're blazing trails. I like this. So how long what's the sweet spot for a video on TikTok? What do you think? 30 seconds, 45 seconds? I mean, what are we looking at?
16 seconds.
Yeah, shorter. Mm-hmm.
Really?
Yeah. We had a lady on the podcast with her father recently, and he wrote his first book 11 years ago. Actually got picked up by Thomas and Mercer, Amazon imprint, and published. Didn't do anything, but he didn't really care. 11 years later, he wanted to write the sequel. It's kind of Murder in the Woods type thing. So he wrote the sequel, and she did a 16-second video saying, look at my dad. Isn't he amazing? He doesn't really care that his first book didn't work, but he wants to write the sequel, and he's such a good writer. That was it. 55 million views later. That book was at number 1 in the US Amazon store for the best part of a month. Wow. And that was a 16-second. That's what I'm saying about TikTok, about that sincerity is such an important thing. You can't fake it, and she wasn't faking it. She was talking about, and you could see in that 16 seconds the relationship between her and her father was adorable. Mm-hmm. She was adorable. The fact that you didn't see her in the video, by the way. Yeah, Stone Maidens is the book. If you look up the story, and we've got them coming on the podcast soon.
Oh, cool.
Okay. So more specifically, is there a specific day of the week? Is there a specific time of day that you should be posting these videos? Really getting into the nitty-gritty.
I think the first question is, how many a day should you do? Which is a depressing thing that anyone who's getting into TikTok doesn't really want to hear this, but you should post a lot. And it's something I struggle to do, but they certainly say at the beginning 3 times a day you should be posting. So you know
3 times a day.
Yeah.
Oof. That's a lot.
TikTok is unfortunately it's relatively territorial as well, which is slightly annoying for me in the UK, because I like to try and sell one of my books in particular is aimed at the States. But I do post deliberately late in the evening sometimes, because I think there's more chance for getting American audience on that. But I've tried recently, I'm just trying to look now at my views over the last few posts, because one I did post quite early in the morning, and that has got, so most of my posts, I will say, get less than 1,000 views or around 1,000 views. And then every now and again, I have one that gets tens of thousands. That one got 699, and the one I did yesterday is 300. The one I did today in the afternoon is 300. I don't know. That's probably because I'm in the UK, but I don't know. I mean, you do get a lot of analytics in the background. You can start looking at this stuff.
What do you think,
I was gonna
Cecelia?
say you could, especially on desktop, it's easier to go through it. You could look at the analytics and kind of figure out when people are on and when your best time to post. But that said, on my military account, my best post, I put it up. It was a ridiculous time in the morning, like 5:30 in the morning or something. I forget. I don't know why. It did really well, and it shouldn't have at that time. So that led me to believe maybe it doesn't matter as much, because I used to pay attention to that. Now I don't. I don't want to have too many videos in draft. I figure, if they're not out there, they're not doing anything for me. So I don't schedule them or batch content or anything like that.
That was my next question was, do you batch
I know
content?
people do. I don't. It's like when the mood strikes me and when I have time, or if I'm in the car and, we're driving to the kids' tennis. It's not me driving. I don't do that when I'm driving, but like we're driving to a tennis. I have 10 minutes. And so I'll do a quick, and then I put it up, because then otherwise I'll forget. Maybe, and it'll just kind of accumulate. So I do them when I can, post them when I can, and I haven't really noticed a difference. I did track that very heavily for a while. I was in such a TikTok mode, seeing so many people go viral, that I was keeping a spreadsheet of everything, the times, the hashtags, absolutely everything I was doing, and kind of came to the conclusion that, I don't know what the hell to think about TikTok in terms of, really trying to be deliberate. So I kind of gave all that up. Yeah.
So,
and now I just do when I can.
Speaking of hashtags,
I will just
I'm sorry. Go ahead, James.
Just before we go into hashtags, in terms of reposting existing content, absolutely you can do that. And TikTok's very good at finding new viewers for it. There's so many viewers out there. It doesn't slavishly send your post to your followers. In fact, when you have a video that does quite well, your followers will be a tiny fraction of that, like less than 1%. So don't be afraid to repost your content over and over again. A good one that's about your book. And there's a couple of apps, add-on apps you can use. I think they're called things like TickSave and Save Snap or something. Basically, that they will download your TikTok and they'll strip out the logos so that you can repost it as a clean post again. Okay, I'm trying to give you that bit more usefully. I think it's called TickSave.
I use SnapTick.
SnapTick and SaveTick. Yeah, SnapTick I think is probably the better one.
SnapTick.
Yeah.
Now, what does that do for you? SnapTick.
So what it does, you can post in a link from your. So if you made a TikTok, you posted your TikTok, go into TikTok, copy the link. Now, if you use that link, you send it anywhere, it's going to come up via TikTok with TikTok branding on it.
Yep.
Even if you download the video from TikTok, it's going to come up with TikTok branding on it. So if you post it again onto TikTok, and they're very clever, the TikTok brand goes randomly over the place. It's going to end up with two of them, or worst case, on top of each other.
Right.
So what you do is you send that pasted link into SnapTick, and it will spit out a clean version of your post again, with no stripping out all the
you would throw that then on Instagram, Facebook, etc.
You can repost it anywhere, but you can also post it back onto TikTok without it looking like it's just one you've, because there's no way within TikTok you can't click on a video and say repost this again.
Okay,
so you need to do that way around.
Interesting. Okay, I never thought of that. That's really cool. Hashtags, are they still important as they used to be? That used to be like the thing. And if so, how effective do you think it is?
They're talking about them being less important. Probably right. Cecelia, feeling that?
That's what I was going to say. That's what I'm hearing on the street.
That's the word on the street.
Word on the street is less important, less as of right now, and less hashtags, right? So people were using, what do they give you, up to 30 or 25 or some crazy amount? But now, because they're, from what I understand, used differently. You're not necessarily using hashtags to get discovered, but for TikTok to be basically put you, in a certain box or category, where you can see at the top of a TikTok, there's a little search bar, and your goal is to try to get, instead of find related videos, which is just what comes up if it doesn't know where to put you, to get book talk in there, and for it to know kind of where this video goes. And so they say, this is a problem with listening to them, whoever they are. They say don't use book talk because it's just too broad and it's too big, and it's got millions and millions of views. It's a waste of a hashtag. And yet when I use book talk, at least 50% of the time, I'll get book talk in that search bar, which means that video, TikTok knows where that video is supposed to go. So I ignore that advice. I use it all the time, and about half the time it works. So I'd say less hashtags right now. But also that's something you can test too. If you have a popular video, taking that video, stripping it, like James said, putting it up with a new sound, and then putting it up with new hashtags, it's a perfect time to test that, especially, if you have a video that is already doing well.
Gotcha. Do you have anything to add on the hashtag thing there, James?
Yeah, I mean, we did teach at the beginning that hashtags were quite important, and also it takes account of any language you use on the video itself. So, captions you put onto the video, try to use keywords. I do think they are probably less important now. I think what probably happens is the more you use your account, the less it needs to go to what you've written, which is a bit of a Twitter thing and Facebook thing. It knows you by this stage, and it's learned more about who's going to be receptacle to your post than you do. So, which is probably why hashtags might be important when you start out. Training the algorithm, become less important as you grow.
Okay. How about Facebook and Instagram? Are they still important out there?
You still use Instagram a lot, don't you, Cece?
I do. I actually, Instagram, I get paid now. And that's one of the reasons why I'm really big on repurposing, because even if the TikTok videos, and I only do this with my Bella Michaels account. So it's really odd because of all the different types of content I have on Instagram and Facebook stories and other places, the videos of me with just, my face, but I'm not talking, and then just captions. Yeah. That seems to do better in other places like Instagram. And enough videos did well enough that I started, getting paid, getting bonuses for that stuff. And then Instagram moved away from bonuses, and they now have like different payment methods, but I'm still getting paid on Facebook. So that's where I kind of say, taking that TikTok logo and repurposing it, that only takes 5 minutes to take that off and then repurpose it somewhere else. You can copy your caption and your notes, and then just use that caption if you put it on Facebook Reels. So when I take my TikTok video and strip it, I'll put it on Instagram Story, Instagram Reel, Facebook Story, Facebook Reel, my personal actually as well, because I get more Facebook Story views on my personal account than I do on my author account. And that is a lot of friends. However, I have friended a lot of readers as well. And so they see that. And so I'm happy to kind of remind them that this book is out and that this book is free and whatever it happens to be. And then also my Facebook Story and Facebook Reel of my author account. And then I'm now testing Pinterest and YouTube Shorts to see kind of how they do there. Hopefully by November, we'll have something to report there. So, it might take 10 or 15 minutes to put it on all those places, but I'll take a few hundred views here and there and add them up and get more people to see. Yeah. So
do you think that they're kind of attracted to you as the person, or what you're trying to come across with? When it comes to publishing, a lot of times people are buying your books because they like you. They get to know you, your fans get to know you, etc. Yeah. What do you think about that?
That's you as a person is 1,000 times more powerful than a product, whether it's a book or a car or a shaver or whatever you're selling. People buy into you, and as authors, I think we underestimate that. I think having a story and a brand is really, really important. And getting readers to buy your book because they're interested in you is the first part of that, but then those readers becoming fans and super fans is the second part of that. So that's why, again, I think that sort of sincerity, that simplicity to TikTok works best. Don't overthink it, but do put yourself out there. That's why I'm keen to see Cissy doing that. I think it'll work well for her.
I would agree with that. I was at one of my kids' sporting events recently, and somebody approached me and they said, I love your video. So I knew what they meant. They were looking at the Facebook story that I'm kind of putting on my personal account. But then she said something interesting. She said, I haven't read a romance book in my whole life, but I keep seeing you with these books and all these really cool locations. And that one where you were in Sicily and the book was set in Sicily. Like I just picked it up because I just kept seeing them and it looked so fun. And she read her first romance novel. So boom, that's a win for me. And so I would agree with James on that one.
Excellent. Now, one of the objections people have for TikTok is, how many authors have you heard? I'm an introvert. I don't want to put myself out there, etc. How do you get over that? And I'll attach a caboose to this. Where do you get your ideas? That's the second thing that I think I hear a lot about too, is like, I got nothing to say. I'm not interesting. But everybody does have a story, I think.
Yeah.
Everybody, there's something unique about everybody, not to be.
Well, first of all, everybody has a story. And I think spending a bit of time working out what that is, ask yourself why you write books, because you don't write them for, obviously we all want to make money from our books, but there's very few people who it's absolutely clinical. They don't give a damn about what's in the book. They just care about the money. There's very few. Most of us write books for a reason,
right?
Connected to us. Now, James Rossone is a sort of mutual friend of ours. He writes books because he came out of war mentally damaged, and it was prescribed to him. Actually, his writing therapy, he could not have been more successful with that, and he talks openly about that. I write books because I'm trying to work out my childhood and who my father was and is. And there's, so I think spending some time working out why you write, and also what you're happy with the public side of that being, because you don't want to necessarily go too deep into your psyche, but work that out in advance. And then you've got your story, your brand, and everyone has that. Like I say, lots of people start off saying that they're introverted, and then they find people like what they're doing. Most TikTok's actually generally a very supportive community, I think, more than the other platforms, and they become a little bit addicted to it. So I can, Jane Ryland, for instance, an example of that, who we worked with on our TikTok course, he said that she was absolutely painful at the beginning. If you look painfully shy, if you look at her early TikTok, she's not in any of them. As now she's there 3 or 4 times a day, standing in the camera with her tiara on, talking to other romance writers and readers, and she loves it. And so I think, it's the great thing about TikTok is you and your phone. You're not standing in front of an audience.
Sure,
you can pretend they're not there if you like.
Do you have anything to add to that, Cecelia?
Yeah, if you could start with the slideshows and things that don't necessarily need to include your face, if that's how you feel, but you'll probably graduate to wanting to use some of the trending things, or I agree with James, as you get comfortable with the platform, you probably get more comfortable showing yourself. So I would say that. And as far as ideas, I get most of my ideas the same way every day. I'll go on and use the platform. I could spend 10 minutes, and then it's like, great, I'm literally doing research and working right now, watching
10 minutes. 10 minutes. She means 2 hours, by the way.
I mean 10 minutes per account. So
okay.
I'll watch it, and then either a sound pops out or an idea pops out. So just using the platform the way it's intended, and then commenting and actually engaging with other people too. So I especially do that on my book talk accounts. Always make sure every day to at least comment on a few, and you can get ideas that way.
Okay.
My wife tells me I've got 1 minute until we're going out for dinner, unfortunately.
Oh, geez. Okay.
That sounds fun.
AI. Do you see this being in any of this?
AI is massively
controversial,
and half the audience will immediately tell you this is heresy, and they'll set fire to whatever they're watching,
right?
Because we're talking about AI, and the other half are slowly embracing it. I absolutely love AI in marketing tools. Absolutely love it. I'm addicted to Midjourney and image creation. I'm loving ChatGPT to help with things like taglines and ideas for targeting in Facebook. I'm not going to go down the route of using ChatGPT for writing. It's not my scene. Don't want to do that. I'd rather talk to a friend about plot ideas and stuff like that, but I'm not also militant about it. But in terms of using it as an AI tool, as a tool in marketing, I think, you know, that genie's out. It's a bit like any kind of new marketing tools come along. Right. And if you want to, on principle, object to them, you're just going to leave yourself behind. In terms of using it for TikTok, absolutely. ChatGPT, you can put into ChatGPT, this is what my TikTok account's like, train it, have a conversation with it, and then say, give me 50 ideas for TikTok posts. And, you know, not all of them will be great, but there'll be quite a few in there that will just get your juices flowing and help you. Yeah, for certain.
That's a good idea, James. I'm going to try that.
I have done it.
I'm going to try that too. That's a really good idea. Look at
you
that.
have to talk to it first so it knows who you are and who your audience are and what you're trying to do with your account.
Yeah.
All
right. Future of TikTok. There's countries, states, corporations that are banning it. What do you see?
Every week I get sent an email, a clip from somebody, usually in the States, saying, look, TikTok's going to be taken off your everyone's phone in America on Thursday or something. I've had so many of those. Still there, isn't it? It's such a big business, and I don't know if you saw the CEO when he turned up at Congress and got questioned. I thought he was amazing. He was so calm, so patient, so reasonable with how the platform works. I think there potentially is a security flaw because there's not a vacuum between China and right. China is a bad actor on the planet, without question. It's a bad actor on the planet. They spy, they rip off things, they abuse copyright, they treat their people badly, they're a dictatorship, and there's huge problems with China. But the vast majority of TikTok, and so that's why I'm not unsympathetic with the idea of a government department saying to its people, we don't want that app on a phone that comes into our building. I can see that.
I can totally see that. Yeah.
But for me, working from home, and I don't really care that much about what Chairman Mao knows about me, is really boring for him. The vast majority of TikTok's interaction is person to person within your territory, within your group, and using it for that. So you know, I understand some people do feel very strongly about this. And James was so funny enough who I talked to, does feel very strongly about this. He's ex-military, has a lot of military buddies, and he will not touch TikTok and advises nobody else to do that. And I understand that. But I think you can use it safely, knowing that it's going to get as much information out you, or probably much less information than Google gets out of you. Let's face it, Google knows every single thing we've been interested in over the last 15, 20 years, and TikTok doesn't really know that.
Yeah, if you want to spy on me, that's fine. I'm pretty boring.
Yes.
That's the way I look at it. You know, it's like, you know, if you want to spend hours listening to my conversations or reading my texts, it's like, okay, we need eggs and butter. Okay.
Yeah. You know, yeah, there's got to be someone in China saying, can I get off this Blatch account? He's so boring listening to it.
Cecilia's leading a double life. She probably has the cool life that we don't know about.
That's why I'm not saying anything.
See, I can read faces. I can read faces very well.
I'm so sorry. I've got to go. I did say to my wife, the call is 5 to 6, but we spent 17 minutes gassing before we started recording, which was great fun.
We can't help ourselves. All right, we'll tell you what. Let's wrap this up then. James, where can people find more about you and your books? And then you can go out to have dinner with your family.
Yeah, so jamesblatch.com is my website. Obviously, James Blatch on Amazon. I'm exclusive at the moment, audiobooks and all my other formats. And selfpublishingformula.com for our online courses. We've got Ads for Authors opening in September. And self-publishing show is hosted there as well.
All right, I'll put links in the show notes. Thank you, James. Cecelia, same question.
I'm easy. CeceliaMeca.com. Cecelia Meca everywhere. On TikTok and Instagram and all those other good places. So that's probably the best way to find me.
All right. Well, thank you both so much for being on the show. We will see you guys in November.
Can't wait. And I've loved being on the show, Patrick. Always a thrill. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Patrick. Good to see you guys.